The Game of Thrones spin-off, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, gives me hope for the real world. In it, we see a man face death for punching a prince. It's fantasy, of course, but the catharsis that we felt while watching it, that was real. That's because it's the most real thing on television right now. In 2026, we are living through a real-world trial of elite impunity. Today, I want to talk about why a fictional knight and the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein are teaching us the same vital lesson: how to break a broken system by speaking truth to power.
In the latest episode of the Game of Thrones spin-off, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Dunk has been imprisoned for standing up to an abusive prince and could face death. He only got himself into this position because of his sense of honor and a duty to protect the innocent. And when the chips are down, he does something incredible. He speaks raw truth to power.
And there's no true knight among you!
I think the reason this episode spoke to so many of us is because the evil of Westeros reflects a lot of what we see in our society today. Elite impunity, callous indifference to suffering, a dereliction of the duty to protect.
And in a world where the parallels to fictional villains are so obvious, I found myself wondering, where are the real-life heroes? But then it struck me. The women, the survivors of Epstein, they stood on the steps of the Capitol building. They revealed their identities, risked their personal safety, risked being smeared, harassed, having their careers destroyed, being retaliated against.
All to speak raw truth to power, just like Ser Duncan the Tall did. Real-life heroes don't need to be almost 7 foot tall, armed with swords, or wearing blue and red spandex. Amidst all the horrors, these women were an example of true bravery and heroism in our world.
Some of you may not remember, but I remember the world before me too. Victims were constantly blamed, accused of being gold diggers, greedy, wanting to destroy good men. Their lives were often ruined.
Just look at Monica Lewinsky, a young woman, a victim, previously framed as a seductress and a homewrecker.
So I really don't want us to minimize this. Even the act of speaking up, of going to the police against such powerful men, is incredible. But then to do so in public, to call attention to the crimes, to back legislation for the truth, to try to bring it all out into the light. This is the courage of heroes.
From public outcry to real legislative pressure to eventually forcing the release of the Epstein files. Remember, almost every single legislator voted for its release. Bipartisan support that we almost never see in Congress. Despite resistance from the White House, the overwhelming weight of public pressure left them no other choice. Our heroes, however, still face the dragon. There are still millions of files to be uncovered.
As it stands, the files have been released with heavy redactions and amidst contradictory official statements, obfuscation, and viral fake news. But progress is rarely a straight line.
In the TV show, Dunk is initially ridiculed after giving his rousing speech. He is dismissed by the noble houses and expects to be sentenced to death or dismemberment. And just when it seems like all hope is lost, the heir to the throne, Prince Baelor Targaryen, uncle of the accuser, emerges armored and on his horse, willing to stand for Ser Duncan.
Finally, someone in power willing to fight for justice and what is right. Of course, it's a Game of Thrones spin-off, so this doesn't necessarily lead to a happy ending. But this video isn't about how it all ends. I'm not here to lie to you that this is a fairy tale, that good will always triumph over evil, that justice always prevails.
Still, Dunk's actions forced someone in power to act. And when you look at it, the Epstein survivors did something similar, playing a huge role in why the files were even partially released in the first place. There's a lot more to do, but there's nothing wrong with acknowledging what has been achieved and the bravery that it took to do it.
Whether or not this leads to consequences for all the perpetrators is a question I cannot answer. Still, I'm holding on to the heroism. The heroism shown by characters like Dunk and like Superman. A heroism that is reflected in the courage of the women, the survivors, that have stood forward, that have put their faces and voices in public, and who unrelentingly have called for justice. And that's what Dunk and Egg and the Epstein survivors can teach us about what happens when a hero stands up to power. They give me hope. They remind us that speaking truth to power is a revolutionary act. When heroes stand up, they inspire others. They expose the dark flaws in the system. They force the people in power, and each and every one of us, to choose how we react. If you've ever wondered what you would do when confronted with great evil, the answer is whatever you're doing right now. So, how will you react?
This video is dedicated to the survivors who stood up and spoke out. Virginia Giuffre, Marina Lacerda, Haley Robson, Courtney Wild, Anouska de Georgiou, Jena-Lisa Jones, Lisa Phillips, Chauntae Davies, Annie Farmer, and countless others. Do you know of any real-life dunks who deserve more credit? Share your examples of heroes in the comments. Let's be hopeful on the internet for a change. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos on geopolitical power, ideological trends, and changing the world.